Hello and welcome back to Crowned and Called. I'm your host, Alexis, and we are in the series Pregnant with Promise. Let's get into December movement without manifestation. December, the last month of the year. The month everyone around me seems to be wrapping things up, receiving things, celebrating things. Honestly, it's just a month of arrival. But me, I'm still in waiting. But something is different about December, and I want to name it right out from the start. I feel it now, not the fragile, uncertain flutter of early second trimester, not the questioning of, is something there? No, like by December, I feel it strongly, consistently, with the kind of interior certainty that doesn't need external proof to stay standing. The baby is moving, but the baby hasn't come. And there is a specific kind of faith that December requires. Not the faith of conception where you say yes before you see anything. Not the faith of early pregnancy where you hold on while everything feels uncertain. December requires the faith of a woman who can feel every kick, who has seen the ultrasound, who knows beyond any shadow of doubt that the life is real, and who still has to wait. That is the hardest kind of faith. Because the closer you get, the more you can feel what you don't yet have. Let's go through December together. December 1st. When the woman aligns, the man awakens. December starts with something I didn't expect to feel awe. I'm reviewing my prayer journal and I realize my prayers have been working. Not in the dramatic, overnight way that I was probably hoping for, but in a slow, steady, undeniable way that I can only see now that I'm looking back with fresh eyes. Week one of that 12-week program he was telling me about, I prayed for his emotional safety and expression. And that week, he showed up for me emotionally in ways he hadn't before. Being present and non avoidant and warm when I was at that Bible study pop up and I ran into that girl and I could have spiraled, but he was there for me. Week two, I prayed for his spiritual clarity, courage, and conviction, and he reached out, telling me that God was speaking to him like crazy. Week three, I prayed for healing from his past wounds, and that's where we are now. And it's Freedom Conference week at church. The entire event is designed for healing from past wounds and a breakthrough that I have already been interceding for on his behalf this week. I don't take credit for this. I didn't make any of this happen, but I showed up in prayer and God gave me the words to say and he moved in response. There's something that keeps surfacing for me this month, and I write it in my journal. When the woman aligns, the man awakens. Not because women are responsible for men's spiritual growth, but because intercession is a real force. Because when you stop trying to manage someone and start praying for them instead, something shifts in the atmosphere around them that you couldn't manufacture with your own hands. In pregnancy, the baby is moving consistently now. You feel it throughout the day. Others still can't see it, but internally there's a constant, consistent movement. That's December 1st. I can feel the movement even when no one else can see it yet. December 3rd, a ring cell, a code word, and emotional intimacy. I noticed the ring that I've been wanting for engagement is on sale. And the sale doesn't end until December 8th. It's only December 3rd, and December 8th is one day after that significant date that God gave me that I don't know what it means yet, December 7th. And honestly, in my excitement and my very human inability to contain good news, I tell my kingdom spouse. In the moment it leaves my lips, I feel a shift. He feels pressured, and I immediately know that whatever happened on December 7th is not about him getting this ring. Because, see, he does not pursue well under pressure, and I know this. So, me telling him and him receiving it as pressure, even though I meant it in an innocent excitement, was me reaching my hand into the process and trying to speed things up with my own timeline. I release this control. I brush it off about the ring. I tell him to focus on gaining his freedom at the conference, and just like that, we're good. What happens next is one of the most genuinely beautiful moments of the year so far between us. He opens up. He tells me about his childhood, about his father, and some of the emotional things that I didn't understand the full scope of. And I got to be a safe place for him. Not a project, not a mission, just someone who was holding space while another person finally says out loud some of the things that they were carrying. I also even share with him what I have been learning about our dynamic and attachment styles. We decide to create a code word that he can use whenever he's feeling overwhelmed by me, and he actually ends up using it in that same night. And I honor it. I hang up, I don't pressure him to go further in the conversation or to give me anything more. I don't push past the boundary that he's named. This is not the version of me from January. This is not even the version of me from August. This is someone who has been in the womb of formation for months, being slowly, quietly shaped into someone who can hold the love that's coming. By the end of that night, he tells his family, openly without being prompted, that we might get back together. And he wasn't joking. See, the baby responds to emotional environments. What's growing between he and I is sensitive to the atmosphere that we create or fail to create around it. December 5th, the last fifth day of the year. If you know, you know. If you've been listening from the beginning, then you know that the fifth day carries weight for me. See, back in January of 2023, before I even met this man, God gave me a promise about the fifth day. I never knew exactly what it meant, but I knew it related to love. And I've held that promise throughout Miss Fifth Day after Miss Fifth Day, and almost moment after almost moment, in quiet days when nothing is happening. And now it's December 5th, the last fifth day of 2025, and we're at Freedom Conference. I see him. I didn't have to go looking for him. I am focused on my own experience, my own prayer, my own healing, my own moment with God. But I see him going up for prayer. And honestly, I feel like God was highlighting this to me. So at this moment, I intercede from him, right from my seat where I am, just agreeing in prayer with whatever is being prayed over his life. After the conference, we end up finding each other in the hallway. We didn't engineer it, it kind of just happened. It's the kind of encounter that happens when you stop forcing stuff. When you actually genuinely let go and let God, God arranges things that you couldn't. We exchange I love yous in the church hallway. The last time we were at this same church together was 4 months ago. And that time was painful and awkward and full of the kind of tension that makes you want to leave before the music even starts. But December 5th is nothing like that. God has redeemed this space for us, the same church, but a completely different atmosphere. This is what restoration looks like in the early stages. Not a dramatic announcement, but a redeemed moment in an ordinary lobby. December 6th, when the enemy tries to stop what's coming. December 6th, I wake up heavy. I don't know if it's God convicting me or the enemy trying to condemn me, but the feeling is thick and it sits on my chest and it just makes everything feel uncertain in a way that I haven't felt in weeks. Okay, it gotta be the enemy. So I do the thing that I've learned to do. I go to spiritual war. I open my spiritual warfare sword, the one I made last month, and I quote scriptures out loud. I pray, and that heaviness lifts off. When I go to the Freedom Conference that day, the prayer is powerful. The pastor's words are stacking confirmation on confirmation. He said, new thing, completing a good work. I run into my kingdom spouse in the hallway, and he just smiling. Like, he calls over to me, and we're just like, did you hear that word? And I'm like, you better walk in that boldness. Because at this point, God is just clocking to both of us. And we both know it. Like, he and I both know that God was speaking to us through that word. And we're just in awe at this point. And then at the conference is my turn for prayer. And the pastor actually speaks over me prophetically. And he says, by June 2026, the promise will be fulfilled. Y'all, June 2026. Now, this time I'm not getting mad at the date. I'm not getting mad at it. Because that is the same date that I saw on that TikTok last month when I was like, God, like, you gave the Israelites an appointed time. Like, when's my appointed time? And she was like, June 2026. And then the pastor comes and tells me June 2026. All right, so when I heard the video, I wasn't, I tucked it in my back pocket. I wasn't gonna give it too much weight. But now, a pastor in person talking to me at Freedom Conference without any knowledge of the video or me, like he does not even know me, and he's speaking the same date over my life, I understood. I understood why I had that heaviness because the devil knew it was coming and he was trying to get me to stay at home today. He tried to get me to give up one day before I received prophetic confirmation. This prophetic confirmation is going to carry me throughout the rest of the year, aka the next few weeks, okay? And the devil, he just did not want me in that prayer line. But I was there anyways. All right, y'all, it's December 7th, the date and what it actually meant. December 7th arrives, and I have been holding on to this date for weeks. The date that God gave me through a literal scripture, Zechariah 7:1. It's the NLT version that says the exact date on December 7th. God didn't give me a feeling, He gave me a literal chapter and verse, and now that day is here. I'm on a women's retreat today, and I make a decision before the day begins. If nothing happens today with my kingdom spouse, I'm going to let go. Not in defeat, but in trust. Because maybe December 7th was never about a ring. Maybe it was always about something that God's doing internally. And then the day unfolds in a way that I did not plan for. I attended a church service with my retreat this day. And afterwards, I surrendered this date out loud to God. I'm not going to put my hands on today. I'm not going to force myself to go to my kingdom spouse's church, even though the retreat is only a few minutes away from his church. I'm not going to engineer an encounter. I'm not going to put my hands on what God is doing. And then right after I prayed that prayer, I go to the other church, and afterwards, one of the retreat attendees randomly invite me to a second service. And it's at his church, y'all. I didn't suggest this. I didn't hint at it to her. Like, it was completely unprompted, and she picked me to go with her. And the whole time I'm driving over to the church, because of course I said yes, I'm praying though. And I'm like, God, I'm not like, God, let him be there. Let us run into each other. I'm like, God, whatever you want to do, I don't want to go ahead of you. I'm like, God, let this be in full surrender. Whatever you want to happen, allow it to happen. Don't let me force anything. If I'm not supposed to see him, don't let our paths cross, like whatever the case it may be. And this church, they have multiple services. So, I don't know if he's going to be there or not. And honestly, we're late because we went to another church first. So, it's giving like it can go either way. And I'm just giving it fully to God, like whatever way you want it to go, God. And literally, as I pull into the parking lot, he is in his car in the parking lot. And like I said, we got there late. So he's actually about to leave, but the car is running and everything. So I park right in front of him. I pull up, and next thing I know, he getting out of his car and coming over to me. And we stayed in the parking lot for about like 5 minutes and talked real quick. And honestly, after that, he was gone. So if I had hit one more red light, or if I missed a turn, or if I had arrived later, actually when my friend did, because she ended up getting lost, I wouldn't have ran into him. So everything that happened was engineered perfectly by God. And like I said, we had a brief conversation, and as we were talking, he was telling me that he was still processing the conference and he didn't have an update for me. I did ask him, like, do you feel like I should keep holding on to this faith, this promise that I feel like God gave me? And he said, I don't know, I'm on this 12-week thing with me and the Lord, and it's only week 3. But, you always mention that your faith has open hands, so keep your hands open. I'm not going to lie. I am a little disappointed. I was hoping, it's December 7th. You went to the conference, like, you're going to come back and be like, yeah, I heard from the Lord. So it wasn't giving what I wanted it to give, but I had always had that date and surrender. I never knew exactly what it meant. So I'm just looking at kind of where I am. Like, I'm standing in a parking lot where God literally just navigated both of our schedules down to the minute to put us in the same place at the same time. And I feel like that's enough. Even though I don't have an answer yet, it's again a little God wink. And then there's a yellow car in the parking lot, y'all. Like, that's just icing on top of the cake, okay? That's just another wink. That just brings a smile on the inside of me. Later that evening, though, I go back to the retreat, and the host of the retreat tells me that her discernment is saying that my kingdom spouse is not my husband. This isn't the first time she's told me this, so I sit with it carefully. Not defensively, but thoughtfully, because she hasn't met this man. I haven't even gone into detail about his and I's relationship to her. And I do know discernment is real, but I also know that not every voice that speaks into our lives is a voice that God authorized to speak on this particular topic. And I know that usually when God speaks through people, it's confirmation to what God already revealed to you in private. What she says last to me definitely lands a little bit different though. She ends our conversation by saying, God wants you to spend more time with him through scripture. See, that part I'm able to receive because it's the third time that I feel like God has told me this. And it's been different sources that I've received this word from the Lord. So at that I can hold on to and run with. And I get into that word and I seek the Lord and I pray about the matter. And honestly, I feel like God revealed to me that not every prophecy is for me in that moment, and that's okay. But it did bring me a level of peace. Some movements bring comfort, some bring confusion. Not every kick feels the same. The baby is real, but not every sensation you feel in this season is a directive. Discernment is learning to know the difference. December 9th, when God remembers your questions. So back in November, I saw two ladybugs and I had asked God what they meant. I never received an answer that day. And I held on to that question, but I didn't keep badgering God about it. Now, in early December, the answer is finally arriving, completely unprompted, literally in the middle of a TikTok video that had nothing to do with my situation. A ladybug graphic appears on the screen as like an overlay on top of someone's voice video while they're talking. And there's a caption on the picture and it explains the symbolism of a ladybug. It says it means rebirth, family expansion, and love. And I saw two ladybugs, y'all. That means double rebirth, double love, double family expansion. And you know, they always say God gives you double for your trouble. So I'm like, oh, look at God. He still answered my question. He still remembered. God gave me the meaning. It was just such an unexpected response method. God is very intentional though, even in the small things. Honestly, especially in the small things. December 15th, being loved versus being chosen. I'm on a family trip. I'm the only person here without a partner. I bring that sadness to Jesus in prayer, honestly, and without trying to clean it up. My kingdom spouse calls me. He opens up to me though. He tells me he loves me, like genuinely. And of course I believe him. But he also tells me that being single in this season just gives him so many options, and he's honestly been feeling paralyzed. And he says that he can't make a decision right now because he has too many doors open at once. And I want to be frustrated, and honestly part of me is, but I also recognize something I haven't been able to name clearly before. His paralysis is not indifference, it's fear dressed up as freedom. In fear, his specific fear of committing and then being hurt, of choosing and then losing, that is the thing that God is working on in him right now. I take a leap of faith while I'm on this trip. I ask him like, hey, can we try again? Slowly, no pressure, no labels. I've already been looking into finding as a Christian counselor. He doesn't say yes, but he doesn't say no. And at the time, I forgot that he was on this 12-week thing. However, I guess that's why he didn't give me a response. We do unblock each other that day, just briefly, just to have a phone call. While I'm away and out the country, it was hard to use online platforms. I realized that clarity doesn't always equal commitment. Someone can understand you, they can love you, and still not be ready to choose you. And that's really painful. But I had to stop seeing that as me being rejected and stop internalizing that. In this stage in a baby's formation, the baby can recognize voices now. Something in my kingdom spouse recognizes what we are, but he's not ready to come out yet. December 16th through 19th. This was a hard week. I have to be honest with you about this week because I told y'all I was going to keep it a bean. So on December 16th, I don't hear from him. He's like silent. And I think, maybe it's because I asked him about us getting back together, but for whatever reason, he's gone silent. And that silence does something to me that I wasn't prepared for. It's not because of him specifically, but it's because it was landing on top of something that I was already going through internally. So I get into an argument with one of my family members on vacation, and he tells me that I haven't changed a bit all year. You mean like all my work, all my healing, all the things I've been quietly building and struggling through, even though y'all don't know none of it because it's not visible, you feel like you haven't seen a change in me all year? That breaks me down. And it hits me in a way that even the ups and downs with my kingdom spouse doesn't hit me because I've kind of built up a tough skin to that. But hearing this from my family member, it really hurts because I know what this year has cost me. I know what I've surrendered. I know what I've built and repented of and released and rebuilt. And to have someone who loves me look me in my face and basically say it's not real, that hit my original deep wound. The one from November 4th where I told you guys that I feel like I always miss it by just a smudge, that I'm never quite enough. I start spiraling real bad, real bad, real bad, to the point where I'm calling the suicide hotline. And I say this out loud because I want you to know that even in the middle of a season of deep faith, real pain reaches a breaking point. And calling for help is not failure of faith, it is wisdom. It is the brave, self-aware decision to not be alone with what's too heavy to carry. This call helps me. I'm able to breathe again, to regulate, to get back to being grounded in who I am and what I'm building, and able to give myself grace. 3 days later, God gives me something to do with the pain. He gave me an idea for a product that will help other people in similar seasons of faith. Being able to see that there's purpose throughout all my pain, even if it's just a glimpse, is a lifeline for me. I also repent to God, not dramatically, just quietly, the way real repentance happens. A decision to return back to alignment, to trust that God has already factored in every stumble that I'm going to make, that I don't need to derade myself, that I shouldn't tell myself that I'm not enough for God. I repent for just feeling lost and getting off track of the promise. December 22nd, the breakthrough that surprised me. I get home from my trip and I find out that I've been unblocked this entire time from my kingdom spouse. Well, the entire time within like the last few days since we unblocked each other to talk on vacation. He never reblocked me, but he didn't tell me that because I had reblocked him. And I honestly actually ended up in the hospital, which is a whole nother story. But while I was there, I was just like, can you unblock me, please? Like, I need to be able to talk to you. Like, this is crazy, da 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 da. And he's like, I never blocked you back. I'm here for you. And I was just like, thank you. And honestly, once I knew that we wasn't blocked, it was up. So we start texting and then we end up talking on the phone, and we're on the phone for like over an hour, and he doesn't even just talk to me because now he's talking to my dad. And like, sure, that might sound like insignificant, but that like carried a lot of weight to me. That mattered, that they were like having that conversation, even if they were just, shooting a breeze about sports or whatever. And even though I know he's not fully ready yet, I do kind of make my case for why we should kind of like try to reconcile and get back together soon. And he hears me out, and he does tell me he's still not sure if he's ready, And, he has all these options and he's scared that maybe I might go back to the old me. And what if I start crashing out again? And I just tell him plainly, like, we're not those same people that we used to be. And I'm single, you single. If I crash out, you can walk away. You're not dating anyone right now. I'm not dating anyone right now. Like, it's not really a risk. And he's like, I'm just really not in a season to date. And then I remembered about the 12 weeks. But he never says the 12 weeks. So, like, honestly, that's a whole nother story. Um, Anyways, he then asked me, what are my deal breakers to us getting back together one day? And I tell him what mine are. And then I ask him what his are. And something about the act of like just naming this out loud to each other, naming the things that we're each protecting throughout this whole process, feels like a new level of vulnerability. He does end off saying that he loves me, that he misses me, and he even says we can start talking every day, but just at a limited amount of time, if that makes sense. And again, he's in these 12 weeks, but I never really asked him like so many details. So whatever he tells me we can do, that's just kind of like what I go along with because I'm like, okay, this is between you and the Lord kind of thing. So I honestly am able to get through this whole conversation with him in a place of peace and confidence that I don't feel like came just from me, right? I struggle with having anxious attachment a lot, and I feel like the anxious attachment side of me would have usually spiraled at every chance when he's saying, I don't know, not yet, I'm not sure. Like that uncertainty used to trigger me so bad, and I'm seeing like it doesn't do that to me anymore. And stuff like that, like that's formation. That is what the womb has been building in me since August. Love is here, but a decision is not. It's like how a baby recognizes your voice. They know you're there, but they're still not ready to come out yet. December 24th and 25th. Reconciliation looks different than what I planned. Christmas Eve anxiety does end up getting the best of me. I push this day. I ask him, like, let's just try again now before you get through the 12 weeks. Like, you're halfway there. Let's just do it on the low and, like, just see what happens. And I know that as I'm doing this, this is not coming from a place of peace. This is not coming from surrender. This is just coming from me wanting what I want and being so close to him and just being exhausted of getting so close but being yet so far. But he holds his ground, thankfully, because I don't want to pull him away from whatever God was trying to do, even though I was trying to in that moment. He's gentle with me, but he's clear. And I do end up repenting to God and apologizing to him. I do feel conviction lifted once I apologize. God knows my heart. I'm just really struggling. And then something quite remarkable happens. I sit with that word reconciliation. Matter of fact, I look it up, and the definition is the restoration of friendly relations. And I stop in my tracks because we have that. Like right now, we are in restored friendly relations. The hostility's gone, the walls are lower, the conversation is open, there's literally no blocks, the love is being named, the deal breakers are on the table. Like, we've reconciled. It just looks way different than I thought it would. God kept his word to me. I have been so fixed though on what reconciliation would look like a relationship, a proposal, a ring, that I almost missed that reconciliation was already present. God was already keeping his word. It just arrived in a shape that I didn't imagine. Delivery is coming. The positioning is done, but it's not time yet. December 28th, when love is real, but still not enough. On December 27th, he came to see me. He drove, even though the timing was tight, even though it would have been easy for him to cancel, he drove hours to come see me, exchange gifts, catch up, and we even kissed. I didn't intentionally bring up our future, but then on December 28th, I wake up to a message from him, and he sent me 2 texts, one while I was asleep and one in the morning. And then he called me that morning before I even got a chance to respond to the text. And he said he missed me. He said I'm so sweet. He said he loves me so much. He said he had so much fun with me yesterday. He even said he talked to a married couple about us the previous night. And honestly, I knew he was going to meet with the couple, so I was interceding over their conversation, even though I was in a whole nother state. Okay, listen. But then later that night, something shifted. Like I felt it in the conversation between us, like a wall that wasn't there that morning, like a warmth that was present, but somehow not quite reaching. So I name it and I ask him, like, what's going on here? And he tells me that he's going to see another girl this weekend. Some girl I never even heard of. And it didn't feel intentional. He says that it just happened between them two. And that he's out here looking for a wife. And that is why he hasn't gone all the way in with me emotionally. Jump scare, pause, freeze, what? Because this is crazy. Like, we were just in a good place. Like, December was tracking so well. And here it is December 28th. And you talking about you finna go see another girl after you just drove hours to come see me? Baby boy, what? Y'all, like, at this point, I'm Abraham. This is my son. I'm finna kill him. Like, I got the knife. I'm ready to go. Surrender. I'm done. Like, I'm releasing him. And it wasn't like out of anger. It was just like, okay, God, like clearly I'm not supposed to have my hands on this in any type, form, shape. And I just let him know, like, yeah, like you gotta make a decision. Like, I cannot be in your life in this in-between space anymore. And you gotta let me know by the end of the year. Mind y'all, it's December 28th, so that's only 3 days. And he tells me, like, can you just pray for me? And he's like, I'm so sad. I love you so much. And in my mind, I'm just like, okay, so just, finish the 12 weeks, be with me. Like, it's not that hard. But I think about Abraham, like I said, how he raised up the knife right over Isaac, but then there was a ram in the bush. And I know that if there's going to be a ram in our story, it can only come from God. Not from me, not from pressure, not from ultimatums, from God alone. So I give him these days to process, not as a power move, but as a boundary that I need to hold. And I tell him, okay, I'm going to pray for you. And that night I make a promise to God that I mean with everything in me. And I choose faith over fear for the rest of the year. All 3 days. December 29th and 30th, when God speaks through your own phone. December 29th, my family does not make it easy. A family member hears me praying for him and tells me that I shouldn't. That if God said that this is my kingdom spouse, that it's just going to happen automatically. Another family member tells me that I'm desperate, I'm immature, I'm not whole. He even goes as far as to say he's going to write a book about women like me and get rich off of it, y'all. I let myself feel everything that they were saying. But then I go to God. And I open up my Bible app and I do Bible roulette where I'm just scrolling and then I randomly stop and I read. And I land on such a time as this. And it's about the Esther fast. And I feel like God is calling me to do it. And I almost didn't because I'm like, well, God, I already ate today. And it's only 3 days left in the year. Like, it's like a 3-day fast. Like, I don't know if it's going to work. But then when I look into it further, I find out that the Esther fast actually starts at sundown. Not like at the morning. So technically I can still do it and start it at sundown for that day because sundown hasn't hit yet. So I'm like, okay, God, like you left an opportunity of a door open wide, just enough for me to make it through. So I start the Esther fast and it's going to end sunrise January 1st. So now on to December 30th. This is day 2 of since I gave him 3 days and it's silent from him. He doesn't call me. He doesn't send any messages, and I'm just sitting in the quiet. And I think about 3rd day theology, right? How Jesus didn't rise until the 3rd day. Esther didn't approach the king until the 3rd day. So, like, I have one more day. And then something happens that I cannot explain away as a coincidence. I ask God out loud, plainly, God, if you still want us to be together, show me a deer today. And if you don't want us to be together, show me a black cat. I've been doing good with signs. I haven't been asking for cars or nothing in a while, but today is heavy and I feel like I need something, right? When I ask God, I know I don't really plan to go outside, so I figure it might have to be a video or like something on social media. So I'm keeping my mind open to that, right? And then I'm scrolling through my camera roll and an old video comes up. I didn't go looking for this, how your phone just be like, oh, we made this for you. And in the video, there are deer. And there's 3 deers, y'all. And I'm on a 3-day fast. And that video was taken the night that I officially became his girlfriend, June 10th, 2023. Like I said, I didn't go searching for this video. It just came up. And it was the day that I asked God for a deer or a black cat. I never saw a black cat. And it was 3 deer. And it was on a date that was significant to me and my kingdom spouse. Again, a God wink. December 31st. The year ends in silence. The last day of 2025 is not what I pictured. There's no matching pajamas, no countdown, no ring, no midnight call, no dramatic reconciliation, no man I met while serving at church that night, no anything. The year ends the way so much of the year has been, in a sacred, aching quiet. I write in my journal, this has by far been the craziest and worst years of my life. And it's true. Like, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. I give God my honest feelings. But here's what else is true. I started this year as someone who didn't know how to surrender. I honestly don't know that I've heard like that word used in the correct term before either. Like, I heard it before, but I feel like I never really learned how to surrender in church or anything. So this year I started as someone who didn't know how to surrender, who didn't really even know what that meant, who confused control with faith and anxiety with love, who thought signs meant immediate delivery, who couldn't hear the word sovereign without flinching. And now I'm ending the year as someone who can hold the promise with open hands, who can receive a word and not demand it materialize on her own timeline, who can feel the kicks clearly and still trust the due date to God, who can call the suicide hotline on December 16th, but be in worship on December 31st. And know that both of those parts are the truth of my story, the story of me, the woman who is becoming. God does not move on my timeline, only his. And due dates, like in natural pregnancy and in my spiritual promise, are not arbitrary. They are appointed. The baby will come when the baby is ready. Not when the nursery's perfect, not when the mother has had enough waiting, not when the fear finally disappears. When the appointed time comes, the baby will arrive. Whew, all right. December is the month that I learned the difference between feeling the promise and holding the promise. Feeling it is real. I don't want to diminish that. There is something sacred about being able to sense what God is doing before it's visible to others. That interior confirmation, that certainty that lives in your body before it lives in your circumstance. But feeling it is not the same as having it. In December, with all its almost moments and divine parking lot encounters and prophecies and ringed cells and holiday silences, December kept showing me that gap, the real, present, painful gap between what I felt and what I held. And what I learned in the gap is this: God is not withholding to punish, he is positioning to protect. Every moment that felt like so close, but then wasn't. Every December 7th that arrived without a ring, every midnight that came without a call, every Christmas morning without matching pajamas was not God being cruel. It was God being precise. Because a baby born before it's ready does not thrive. The lungs aren't finished, then the baby can't breathe outside the womb. The weight that isn't built can't regulate temperature. Full term isn't about how ready the mother is. It's about whether the baby can survive the world it's being born into. God wasn't keeping the promise from me. He was keeping me and my kingdom spouse inside the process long enough to actually be ready for what delivery brings. If you are in your December If you can feel everything clearly but hold nothing yet, I want you to know feeling it is not delusional. It's preparation. The movement you feel is real. The kicks are real. The promise is real. And the silence on the last night of the year is not the final word. It's the last hours before sunrise. And Jesus rises early in the morning.